Bulletcast for life.
Ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time is Russian Dynamite, aka Masha Three Belts, Masha Slamovich. Masha, how you doing?
I'm doing great with all of my three belts.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're gonna get into every single one of them, but I guess we'll just do kind of the generic. How'd you discover professional wrestling? What made you fall in love with it? That sort of thing.
Well, I suppose the answer is no different from anybody else. I was a young kid and I was watching wrestling on TV, and I just decided, man, this is what I'm gonna do for a living for my life, and that was it. I never let go of that, and here I am.
Yeah. So, I mean, doing my research about you, I found out that you were actually born in New York and you traveled back and forth between New York and Moscow, Russia. And then I think at the age of 16, you started training with Johnny Rods, who trained, people like Taz and the Dudleys. So I guess first off, what was that experience like traveling between the States and Russia?
I enjoyed it because I always enjoyed living in both places, and I never really saw a downside to it because I always loved traveling and seeing the world from a young age.
Okay. And then how'd you discover Johnny School?
Well, one day I decided that I didn't want to wait any longer and I was gonna start training. So I just Googled wrestling schools in New York, and I think Johnny Rods may have come up first or second, with House of Glory being the other. And I clicked on it, called Johnny Rods, and the rest is history.
Awesome. So, I mean, Johnny, he's been training people for such a long time. I don't have you talked to other people who have been trained by him. Did I guess, the way he trains people, did it change once it got to your class, or did he keep a lot of the stuff the same, or what?
Luckily, by the time my class was there, a whole bunch of people, veterans of Johnny's, had come back to pretty much have like one last go at, either wrestling or training the rest of us. So it was a great time to be there, especially because we also had connections with Mexico and Japan at the time, which meant that I got a very well-rounded training at Johnny's.
Okay. So, I mean, were you an athlete like all throughout your life, or was this kind of like the first like combat sport or anything that you've done?
Oh no, I've always been an athlete between swimming, track and field, karate, horseback riding, a million other sports. I've always been somehow involved physically.
So, I mean, Johnny School had ties to Mexico and Japan. So I assume you were able to, to go to both of those different places and train and, work and just get a nice, well-rounded experience like you just said.
Well, I wasn't able to go to Mexico just yet, but due to those connections, I was actually able to have my debut, my first pro wrestling match over in Japan. And that would lead to me staying there for a month and a half for a little tour, thanks to Johnny Rods.
Awesome. So what was that experience like?
It was really awesome. Japan is a place where everyone wants to be, in the wrestling world, and to just immediately get to start out there was a really awesome experience. And I was very honored by that. And, just seeing Tokyo and living there for a while was really awesome.
Yes. I mean, so speaking of Japan, one of your influences is the Dynamite Kid. I mean, tremendous wrestler, so intense with everything he did. And you see that in your work. So what was it about Dynamite Kid that you were like, I love this guy?
Well, I suppose it's exactly what people love about me. It's the intensity, just the aggression and the crispness of the work.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you've been wrestling for about what, like 6 or 7 years?
Just about, yeah.
Okay. And I mean, and already you've been able to accomplish so much, with GSW being the first women's champions in both divisions, I guess you could say. You were on NWA Empower. You've been wrestling for AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. Had a great match with Hikaru Shida last week. So, I mean, for being in the business like a short amount of time, you've been able to accomplish a lot. How do you look at what you've been able to accomplish so far?
Well, I'm very thankful for all of the life circumstances that have allowed me to accomplish all of these things. And, it is just evidence that hard work pays off because I worked for it. And this is what happens when you work hard and you earn it and you continue to push yourself.
Absolutely. Life lessons by Masha, everybody. So let's get into GSW. I'm the commentator for High Voltage. I've enjoyed your work from what I've seen from it. And how'd you get involved with the company? Hello?
Yeah. Could you repeat that? It was something.
How'd you get involved with GSW?
So I got involved with GSW while I was over in Japan. They reached out to me. I believe, I don't remember who reached out to me exactly, but we began talking. And at first I told them I wasn't sure when I was coming back, which was true at the time. And then circumstances changed, and I told them I would be returning in the early part of 2021, which led to me working with them for pretty much the entire year now.
Yeah. So I mean, you won a fatal four-way. You became the first ever Soul of Syndicate champion, and then you fast forward to August and you win the tournament. You beat Allison Kay in the final at Global Festival, which was a really hard-hitting match, and you become the first ever GSW Women's Champion. That's pretty badass.
It was pretty cool, especially, wrestling in the House of Independence, which was a really awesome venue. And I enjoyed that match with Allison Kay, and it ended in my favor, as you can see by all the belts.
I mean, so what does it mean to you to be to be truly cemented in this company's history? You're the first ever Solo Syndicate champion. You're the first ever women's champion.
Once again, it's pretty awesome, and something cool that I can put in my books of things that I've done. And I did remember saying in interviews in the beginning of 2021 and the end of 2020 that during this year, one of my goals was to be dripping in gold. And I think I've accomplished that.
Absolutely. And then most recently, you added the Combat Fighting Ultimate Championship to your list of accolades. You defeated Janai Kai in the final. So for people who have never seen Combat Fighting Unlimited, kind of describe to them what that is.
Well, you put some gloves on people and you throw them in a cage and you leave them to go rounds in there for fights. So that's what that is, and I think everybody should be watching it. It's pretty interesting.
It is. It's a very interesting concept. I mean, I love it. You become their inaugural champion. So I mean, just a lot of first evers in your career. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool indeed.
So I mean, have you won some other championships that you're the first ever champion that I don't know of or other people don't know of yet? Or
I don't think there was any first evers, but I did hold the Victory Pro Wrestling Women's Championship back in 2018. I was also champion in Canada for Classic Championship Wrestling and in Buffalo for Nickel City Wrestling. And I hope, oh yes, and also, of course, in Johnny Rod's promotion, I was the North American Women's Champion. So those are the other 4 titles that I've held in my career.
That's awesome. I mean, dripping in gold all throughout your wrestling career. I love it. So, I mean, as we wind down here, I like to do a rapid fire portion of the interview just to kind of, get you thinking. So, favorite wrestler of all time?
Dynamite Kid, I guess.
All right. Favorite tag team of all time?
That's gonna need some thinking. Let's go with Kobashi and Misawa when they were teaming up. That was pretty awesome.
Okay. All right. What was it about them? That's not something I hear very often.
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen them wrestle each other, those were some spectacular matches. So when you team them up against others who are equally as good as them, it creates magic.
Absolutely.
And I
All
also think of any other tag teams that I know of at the time. So.
It's cool. It's cool. Favorite finisher of all time?
That is a question that I'm not asked frequently. That's a great question. I've seen several pile drivers off the top, or actually burning hammers also, not off the top, just a regular burning hammer. So let's leave it at those two.
Okay, I'm a big fan of your finisher, the single cradle gotch pile driver. I think that's really cool.
Yes, I'm glad that you know exactly where the inspiration from that came from, and that's pretty dope. Glad you like it. I like it too. Wins most of my matches.
Absolutely, it's the reason why you got all those championships. Favorite horror movie villain?
Film, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Favorite horror movie villain? Would you go Freddy or?
Yeah.
Okay. He can kill you in your dreams. That's a biggie for anybody who picks Freddy. I understand.
Exactly. That's kind of like the factor. I'm like, he can get you in your sleep too. Also, in Russia, we have this horror movie called V, which features a flying ghoul in a coffin. So that's a pretty awesome villain, also.
I've never heard of this. I'm gonna have to go check it out.
It's pretty great.
That sounds really interesting. Last up, favorite word to say in Russian?
Suka.
What does that mean?
Bitch.
I love it, Masha. Thank you so much. You're awesome to watch. It was my first time getting to see you in person at the GSW Global Festival weekend, and you killed it on High Voltage. You killed it on the free per view. You did a lot of great work. I was super excited to watch your stuff and finally meet you in person.
Thank you.
No problem. So let people know where they can find you and let them know what else you got coming up.
Well, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Masha Slamovich. And for my upcoming events, you guys should join my Patreon, because in the beginning of every month, I post out the monthly calendar, which I don't make available to anybody on social media. So only for my patrons. Look me up, Masha Slamovich, on Patreon. And my t-shirts are on Pro Wrestling Tees, also Masha Slamovich.
Awesome. Well, guys, there you have it. Masha 3 Belts. Masha, thank you so much.
Thank you.